Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, but we might have some more people trickling in. I am going, I think, to keep my camera off for now because it's easier for me to see my screen with my camera off. But I'll turn it on at the end for questions. And if you guys, if something looks weird or if you have something come up in the middle of while I'm talking, feel free to just comment it in the chat and I should be able to see it even while I'm sharing my screen. Um, so, welcome to Little Finance 101 Industry Guide. The goal of today's session is to kind of help you guys maybe start an internship search or just start exploring different career pathways. And I'm going to give you a rundown of the whole financial industry. And then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions. So we have the next hour. Thank you guys so much for coming, and let's get started. So, welcome to Finance 101. We are here to help you start your job search. So, this is kind of how it's going to go today. I'm going to start by doing an overview of the industry. Um, different types of maybe careers that you've heard of in finance, different types of places you can work. I'm going to talk about who can do it. I'm going to talk about how to get there. So, we're going to go about how to find opportunities, how to kind of go about making your target list of companies, and then super important in this industry, how to network, and then what documents you need. And then we'll free up some time at the end for questions, hopefully. Um, so let's get in. So, what exactly is finance? So, according to Google, textbook definition of finance, it's the study of money and how to manage it, as well as the process of acquiring funds. So, finance professionals can work in a wide variety of roles because that is a super, super broad definition. Some examples and kind of how it's broken down is there's personal finance, which involves individuals and families managing their money, corporate finance, which is how businesses raise and spend their money, and then public finance, which is kind of an overlooked sector sometimes. And that's how governments manage their money, which is super important. And there's lots of job opportunities there as well. And kind of as you might be able to tell, finance is definitely not one size fits all. There's such a diverse array of jobs that exist in this industry, and there's so many different opportunities and ways to apply your skills. So finance can look super different depending on the role because each role requires different skills. So some things to kind of consider if you're maybe someone who's interested in pursuing a career in finance, maybe you've already done a finance internship and you're not sure what comes next, are some, kind of unique things that are specific to this industry. So for number one, you have to have an interest and a passion because even though lots of different financial roles require different skill sets, a lot of it does come down to numbers, market trends, and understanding the economy. So having this foundation and having this as an interest is super important. And it can kind of help keep you motivated, especially when the work becomes complex. Kind of building off of that, having an aptitude for numbers and analysis. Lots of analysis occurs in the financial industry, whether you're analyzing trends or helping a business make a decision. So that's kind of a super unique skill that if you have, you might be a good fit. Also, problem solving skills. So even if maybe you haven't had experience with finance classes, or maybe you're unsure about your exact aptitude for numbers and analysis, problem solving is also super important because the financial world is so unpredictable. So we always need people to kind of be there to help brainstorm and strategize in times of uncertainty. And then with finance as well, there's also a lot of ethical considerations. Um, the finance industry has, immense influence over the entire global economies, communities. So the decisions that we make and that you guys might make as financial professionals are super important. And it's very important to kind of act responsibly in the role, and consider, all the ways that a decision might affect. And then also continuous learning and
Nhưng
adaptability.
mà
This is my favorite part of the industry is that, it's always changing. Um, so having that kind of going off of problem solving, being able to have those skills and being able to adapt in a changing environment, super, super important skill. So next, someone has their microphone on if you want to turn that off. Otherwise, I can do it. There we go. Pros and cons of the finance industry are very similar kind of to other industries like medicine and law. There's a high earning potential, which draws a lot of people to this industry. But there's also long hours and, there's a lot of pressure. So these are also important things to consider. the global impact, again, ethical considerations are a pro and a con because you do have the ability to positively impact a lot of people, but there's also a lot of pressure. And then the fast-paced environment too. If you're someone who's super dynamic and you continuously like to learn new things and you like being in a challenging, fast-paced environment, then this is great for you. But that does also come with some long hours, which is something that everyone has to consider. So, kind of getting into some examples of careers in finance that you guys might have heard of. These are kind of general, and then we'll get into some more a little bit later. But kind of a main group that I think people tend to um, be attracted to is the financial analyst job. So this is super, super broad, and this can, encompass, governments. This can also encompass private companies, um, even individuals. A financial analyst is someone that analyzes financial data and economic trends to help businesses and individuals make investment decisions. So their daily tasks might include analyzing financial statements, developing models to predict the performance of the company, and then they might also prepare reports and do presentations to explain what they found, and communicate their perspectives to senior leadership. Um, and then financial analysts can also choose to specialize in areas such as risk management, portfolio management, or corporate finance. Or even if you work for a certain company, maybe you specialize in an industry like, energy, or auto manufacturing. So you can specialize kind of the same way you might specialize in consulting as well, which is really cool for people who kind of have two main interests. And then another one that most people know about as well is investment banker. This is someone who advises clients on large financial decisions like mergers and acquisitions. So the clients in this situation, instead of being people, they're usually big companies. They help their clients raise money by issuing stock shares, floating a bond issue, or negotiating the acquisition of a rival company, or even arranging the sale of the company itself. So investment bankers play a little bit more of a role in preparing initial public offerings by young companies preparing to go public. And they also work with established companies who want to raise large amounts of cash as well. And then there's also the financial advisor for someone who might be more people oriented. If you love to build connections and communicate with investors and with clients, this is definitely a role to consider. Financial advisors help individuals make decisions about savings, retirement, and investments. They meet with people, to make big life decisions to help save for certain goals. And then their tasks can range between, building retirement or determining, the profitability of a project or even to buying a home. So very client focused and people-centered role, financial advisor. We also have an accountant, which is definitely, I think, an overlooked role in finance. Super, super cool. Someone who reviews and analyzes financial records for individuals and businesses, responsible for filing and managing financial data for tax compliance, preparing financial statements, and maintaining a record of a company's daily transactions. So you can do this kind of in-house or you can work for a firm and you really get to know a company and you get to help them out in that way. And then I think as well, another kind of overlooked role is the actuary. An actuary is a highly skilled professional with a deep understanding of mathematics, statistics, and financial theory. So a lot of people who become actuaries, they actually major in that. And they can calculate the potential risks and probabilities of future events. And they're very important in the insurance industry as well to help design sustainable policies. And then down here, we also have investor relations. A lot of times with client management or with very big firms, there's people who are in charge of managing relationships with investors, attending meetings, relaying information, and communicating important information to key stakeholders. So once again, if you're someone who's very people-oriented, this could be a good role for you. And you guys can feel free to take screenshots of this presentation, and then I can send it out to you if you'd like afterwards with all this information. You can take notes as well. So this information will be available, so you don't have to kind of, struggle to write everything down. So going off of that, what are your options? If you're someone, maybe you're a business major, maybe you're not a business major, where do my skills and my roles kind of fit in this industry? It can feel really overwhelming, and I know a lot of students are intimidated by the entire, industry and just by the idea of pursuing a career in finance because maybe they aren't business majors. I know I wasn't when I first got here, but I was very curious, or because you kind of heard the finance pro stereotype and you're not exactly sure where to go from there or what that means. But I'm here to just reassure you that Anyone who is interested in finance should feel comfortable exploring the field, which is exactly the purpose of this presentation and of this session today. So, most of the roles in finance, like we discussed on the last slide, are rooted in analytical thinking. So, I just want to reassure you guys that even if you aren't an accounting or business finance major, you can definitely find your niche and go from there. Um, because you can learn a lot of the required skills that you need for your interviews and for the job. Um, but kind of having that analytical mindset and that go-getting mindset is what you really need to get started. So, humanities majors and STEM majors often find roles in the financial industry where their skills are valued and needed because analyzing trends and informing important decisions does require a wide array of skills. So, I'm going to go deeper into depth about the financial sector. The financial sector essentially is just the section of the economy made up of firms and institutions that provide financial services to commercial and retail customers. So these would kind of be the banks that you think about, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citigroup. Um, these are banks, investment houses, insurance companies, real estate brokers as well, consumer finance companies, even mortgage lenders, so loans, and real estate investment trusts. So any type of, you know, institution or group that contributes to providing some sort of financial service to someone would fall in the sector. So this is where so many finance jobs lie. And this is kind of like the core for understanding, what jobs are available to you and where you can go from here. So, fun fact, the financial sector makes up one of the largest portions of the S&P 500. And then, like I mentioned earlier, those are some of the largest banking institutions in the world that hire lots of students from USC, which is awesome for you, and that are very prominent in the financial sector, to give you guys kind of a better idea of what exactly this means. So while these large companies do dominate the sector, there are hundreds, thousands of smaller companies that also participate as well. Insurance, is a major player in this industry, and then even small boutique banks and venture capital firms and, law firms as well kind of come in here, providing financial services to people. So definitely not limited in this industry with the amount of options that exist. So here's kind of another breakdown of what exactly this kind of looks like when you look at it all together. We have government institutions, exchanges and clearinghouses, investment managers, insurance providers, investment banks, retail banks, and then payment processors too. So I'm going to go into a little bit about what exactly all these look like because there's a bunch of different roles at all of these types of companies. So starting with the retail bank, that's kind of like your classic bank that first comes to mind when you hear the words retail bank. So it's a classic deposit-taking institution that accepts cash deposits from savers and pays interest on those savings. They generate revenue by lending out the deposits to borrowers at a higher interest rate than is paid on savings. These are also known as commercial banks. So commercial banks or retail banks, it's the name that's on your debit or credit card, the bank you go to when you have to deposit or withdraw cash. That would be a retail bank. An investment bank is a little bit different than that, but sometimes the bank will have a retail side and an investment side, so keep that in mind. If you're maybe getting confused, JP Morgan, for example, they have JP Morgan Investment Bank and then they have JP Morgan Retail Bank. But an investment bank is a non-deposit taking institution that's focused on the practice of corporate finance. So, like I mentioned earlier, investment bankers, they're providing advisory services to businesses to help them raise funds from the financial markets. They also offer services like securities lending to large institutional clients, and they generate their revenue through fees that they earn by providing these services and through trading in the markets. So moving on, investment managers are professional firms that provide investment management services to individual and institutional clients. And they generate revenue by charging a small fee on managing the total money, also called assets, under their management. So a lot of banks also have an asset management branch as well. So once again, if you're hearing, the name of one bank within all these different contexts, it's because they have different departments that do all these different things. And then next we have government institutions. Government institutions regulate the functioning of the markets. They issue legal currency in an economy. They control interest rates in the domestic market. And a lot of times they also set the exchange rate as well for a currency in a foreign market. And they set the rules that regulate the functioning of the financial markets as well. So retail banks, investment managers all kind of have to abide by the rules set by government institutions. And they come up with those rules based on a lot of analysis and a lot of deep thought from their employees. So moving on to our next slide. Um, Exchanges and clearinghouses. This is a bit more kind of niche and complicated, but I'm going to explain it for you guys. These are essentially venues where the actual trading takes place. So think of like the New York Stock Exchange. What they do is they collect orders from different market participants and post them to an order book. And then as buy and sell orders match, the trades are executed. They are responsible for settling accounts between various participants in a market where one party pays the other based on the price of the underlying security. So essentially, the job of the clearinghouse is to assign the payer and the receiver the right amount of money. And they're often referred to as a central counter clearing party, a CCP. Um, and then we also have payment processors who are super important and I think have a lot of really awesome jobs and internships that are often overlooked. So these are the intermediaries that facilitate the exchange of funds between parties. They network with various institutions to ensure a secure transfer of funds. And examples would be Visa, MasterCard, Interac, or American Express. And these companies have all sorts of different jobs, especially for people who maybe are interested in working in the financial industry, but not necessarily doing finance specifically. These companies are brands, right? So they have marketing teams, they have communications teams, they have design teams. So there's lots of amazing ways to get involved in this industry, um, especially I think through payment processors without actually, doing finance. So a little plug there if you're interested maybe in that route. I would definitely look into some of those companies, which I'll have more examples later. And then finally, we have insurance providers who provide protection against unforeseen financial losses arising from events like accidents or disasters in exchange for a small premium paid at regular intervals. So, insurance providers serve individuals and institutions, and they hire a lot of people to assess risk and to set the right prices for their services and to decide maybe who is safe to insure and who's not safe to insure. So, there's a lot of risk management and financial analysis that goes on with insurance providers as well. If any of you are interested in that. Okay, and then here are not some institutions that were included on that initial photo, but just some, buzzwords that maybe you guys have heard. Maybe your friends are talking about these kinds of companies. Maybe you are potentially pursuing an internship at one of these companies. We have hedge funds, which are large entities investing in stocks, bonds, derivatives, who are known to take higher risks and provide higher returns. Private equity firms, they buy corporations, privatize them, and analyze potential purchases, negotiate deals, raise financing, or attempt to improve portfolio companies' operations and profitability. Eventually, they sell the company or take it public again. And then real estate as well, kind of just as a whole. We have real estate brokers, but also real estate companies who buy existing projects to better manage them or develop new projects or to turn them around and resell them. And then venture capital as well. I know this is kind of a big upcoming thing. A lot of people at USC talk about this, big buzzword. Venture capital firm is essentially an investment fund that manages money from investors who are seeking private equity stakes in a startup or small, medium-sized company. Usually this is in a rapidly changing industry like technology, biotech, or green technology. And the company that they're looking to invest in usually has strong growth potential, generally characterized as a high risk, high return opportunity. So for someone who likes to take risks, for someone who especially wants to, stay up with the current trends and find good investment opportunities, venture capital is definitely something you should look into. And then here are some examples of institutions that would fall under each of these categories. Retail banks, like I already mentioned, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase. Their retail branch is Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, BNY Mellon. And then investment banks, some examples are Evercore, Barclays, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Lazard, and Centerview. Investment managers, BlackRock, Fidelity, and State Street are some examples. And then government institutions as well. A very different, very unique, but also super interesting route to take if you're interested in politics and finance. We have the central bank, the SEC, the Federal Reserve gets to play a huge role in impacting people's lives. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't discount that as a potential route as well. And then exchanges and clearinghouses. Um, we have CME Clearing, which is the house that clears for the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we have the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ are the two major clearinghouses in the US. Also, like I mentioned, payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, Interac, and American Express. I know that Visa and American Express have a lot of internships and rotational programs that are super great for people who are interested in maybe dipping their toes into the financial sector. Rotational programs specifically are really awesome because you usually get to have experience 6 months in different areas of the company and then 6 months in another area. So super good option for all my juniors or seniors out there who maybe are looking for something a little bit longer than an internship, but not quite a full-time commitment. And then insurance providers. Some of these names you have may heard, they're all over our TVs with really funny commercials. State Farm, Nationwide, Cigna, Northwestern Mutual, Progressive. Like I mentioned earlier, lots of roles within those companies. And then hedge funds, Bridgewater, Citadel, BlackRock, and AQR are some examples of private equity firms. And then let's see. Oh, sorry, private equity firms. My computer glitched for a second. We have KKR, K1, the Carlyle Group, Blackstone, Apollo Global Management are some big names in the industry. And then real estate, there's a bunch of different routes you can take here. We have CBRE, Redfin, Cushman & Wakefield, Sotheby's, Century Group, and Compass. Some of these firms are more focused on brokerage, but some of these firms also have, once again, an array of different roles. I know CBRE has financial analysts, valuation analysts, so lots of different routes you can take in real estate. And then venture capital as well, a bit more niche, but I know it's something that a lot of USC students are interested in. Sequoia Capital, Index Ventures, SV Angel, Aceel, Lightspeed Venture Partners are some examples as well. So in addition to those direct companies, there are also a lot of other industries and career paths that could potentially cross over with finance. That aren't necessarily directly in that list of institutions in the financial sector. So we have law, for example. A lot of law firms have finance-related services, estate planning, they facilitate private equity deals, financial litigation, are three kind of like main legal paths that intersect with finance. Consulting as well, I know is something a lot of students are interested in here at USC. Consultants a lot of the times work on projects that relate to having some sort of degree of financial knowledge, especially when they go into a company and help streamline operations or improve cost efficiency. That requires financial knowledge and requires a lot of the same skills that you would need in the finance industry. And then working in tech as well. Maybe if you're not directly working for a venture capital firm, but you're on the other end, working for a startup that is potentially pitching to a venture capital firm or to a private equity firm. There's a lot of intersection there. And then also companies that are specifically developing technology for financial analysis or developing technology for finance companies to use. That's another way, especially for my engineering friends out there, to kind of blend some of your interests. And then business development, just kind of very broad way that you could take your career as well. There's a lot of strategizing in business development, especially when you're working for a smaller firm or a smaller company. You might wear many hats, so you might get the chance to kind of experience marketing and finance and communications all at once if you're working in business development or if you're working for a small company that's just starting up. I think that's the awesome thing about working for a small company is that you get to wear so many hats and learn so many different things at once. And then PR and communications as well for my people who are very client oriented, want to work with people, want to do outreach. Lots of different financial institutions need that in regards to outreach to investors, capital raising, and then balancing relationships with investors and clients as well is super important. So yeah, super important skill not to discount at all in this industry, communication skills. And then outside of the financial industry, I just wanted to kind of explain the difference between working for an institution in the financial industry versus working in-house. So another opportunity, maybe if none of those sounded particularly interesting to any of you, is doing finance in-house. So what that means is when a company manages its own financial operations internally with a dedicated team of finance professionals who are employed directly by the company, rather than outsourcing these functions to external financial institutions or service providers. So this is essentially when a company handles finances within its structure. And they might not handle all of their finances within their structure, but at least to some degree. So let me show you kind of what that would look like. So here's some examples that I pulled off of Handshake of companies that have, to some degree, an in-house finance program. McGraw-Hill, Bloom Energy Corporation, PVH Corporation, and then Warner Bros. So even if you don't necessarily want to do an investment banking internship, or a financial analyst internship for one of those institutions that I discussed earlier, these are awesome, awesome ways to kind of learn about finance and to really immerse yourself in a company is by doing it in-house. And a lot of times, the natural progression in the industry is to kind of start for a firm and then move in-house, but your career is in your hands and you can take it whatever direction you want and you can totally start in-house and do it that way. I think it's a really amazing experience. Um, the benefits of doing this are that if you're very, very passionate about, say, fashion or entertainment or a certain industry, but you're also wanting to pursue a career in finance, is that you can do finance for a fashion or entertainment industry. So kind of going back here, as you can see, PVH Corp, that's Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Warner Bros. If you're super passionate about these industries, about one of these companies in specific, I know a lot of students really want to work for Disney, because, they loved it growing up, or even Visa or American Express, like I mentioned earlier, those payment processors. You can do finance internally for one of those companies, which is such a good way to blend two interests. So what you might do on an in-house finance team definitely depends on the job itself. And also as you specialize and progress in your career, but you might prepare budgets for the company and kind of forecast future budgets. You might help analyze their financial statements, especially, if you're someone who's interested in accounting, help manage their cash flow and monitor their expenses. And then part of all of this is conducting financial modeling, overseeing accounts receivable and payable, accessing investment opportunities, and then providing financial advice to other departments. So, kind of the same way you would manage your own money, just think about doing that for a company on a much larger scale. So, now that we had kind of a little bit of an overview, I'm going to do a rundown on how exactly you can start and the right steps to take to get in the direction that you want to go. So, my biggest recommendation to students who are kind of looking to start, exploring finance, maybe you're starting to apply for jobs, apply for internships, maybe you want to network with people, is to definitely use Handshake and to lean into Handshake by attending information sessions and reading the descriptions on different jobs. Every job in finance is so different. And you'll even notice the difference between reading an investment banking posting versus reading, maybe an in-house financial analyst posting and kind of deciding what looks appealing to you and where you think your skills might lie. So you can use job search function to explore new opportunities, filter internships by certain criteria. You can set alerts for new job postings and learn about different companies and types of roles. And then recruiting, you can also register for recruiting events where certain employers are looking to hire current students. They might come to campus and give a presentation. The recruiters might, want to network with you and you can ask them questions. They're a super amazing resource to kind of help you figure out where your skills might best fit in the industry. And then informational events as well. Even companies that aren't specifically hiring, they might still come and host an event just to talk about what they do and who they are. So these are also really good opportunities to learn about the difference between maybe working in government versus working for an investment bank versus working for a retail bank or, working in client services and asset management. So getting to hear what they have to say and getting to really understand the differences is important as well. So here's just a quick little demonstration on how you can job search on Handshake. If you're here right now, that means you have a Handshake account, which is awesome. So something that I liked to do when I was searching for internships is I would set an alert just like this. And if you go to the job searching page, you can put in all your criteria, your location, full-time or internship, and then you can even type something in right here, financial analyst, if that's what you're looking for, or accounting intern. And then you can set an alert for that. And every time a job is posted, you will get a notification. You can read the job description, see if it's something you like, save it, apply for it. The choice is yours. And then you can also see similar jobs, which I think is super helpful as well. And you can learn about the employer. So maybe, say for example, BMO Financial Group posted something that you were interested in, but you think that maybe your skills will be somewhere else. You can learn more about the employer, see what other opportunities they have. Or, for example, you saw a company posted something and you loved the role, but you didn't love the company. You can see similar jobs, similar roles, but maybe for different companies. And then you can also follow employers that you're interested in. Maybe right now you're just in the job searching stage. You're not necessarily ready to apply for internships or jobs, but you want to keep tabs on what's going on and better understand, maybe when roles come out. You can follow certain employers in the employer tab on Handshake, which is really helpful as well. So that way you'll be the first to know when events or internships are posted. And then if you're past that point and you're ready to start recruiting, you can use the events tab to keep tabs on hiring events, in-person interviews that sometimes happen in the Career Center, or events like the Career Fair where you can go meet employers in person, or recruiting events. So right in the events tab, you can just click on that and you can sort by hiring, and then you can set the categories to whichever you want, and you can track events that way. You can save the events that you're interested in. So I think these events are super underrated. They can be super helpful. The recruiters are amazing who come to campus, and a lot of times at the end of the event, there will be time for you to connect with them, or they will give you their contact information, which can be super helpful if you have questions or if you want to let them know that you sent in an application. They're always happy to connect with you about that. And then also, if you're interested in events that aren't hiring, you can select any of these categories as well to stay notified on what else is going on. So now, kind of going off of that, another underrated trick, I think, when it comes to applying for jobs and internships is creating a lamp list. Once you've kind of familiarized yourself with the industry and you've decided, what direction you want to take, I think it's really important to kind of make a list for yourself so that way you can help stay organized. And a lamp list is a fantastic way to do that. A lamp list is just a curated list of target companies that can help you narrow your search, kind of like the same way you would make a list of target schools when applying for college. So LAMP stands for List Alumni Motivation and Posting, and I'll show you what it looks like when all of that comes together. So list is just your starting list. To start the LAMP process, you're just going to make a list of 40 target employers that you're interested in. These companies can be big or small. Maybe you know someone who works there, maybe you heard about it in class. It's just a step for generating ideas, and it can change as your interests change, but just having a list is a great place to start. And then A stands for alumni. So using the tools on LinkedIn and Handshake, you can see if the companies you identified have hired USC alumni in the past, which is important because it indicates a potential relationship or someone you could talk to. So if a company has an alumni, you just make a little note that they have a lot of alumni, and you can see a little example on the side here. And then motivation, something that's important as well is to kind of rank your motivation for the companies that you listed so that you can know where to put your energy and where you want to start as well. So a simple way to do this is just to record on a scale of 1 to 5. A 5 means you're super motivated, and a 1 means that it may not be your first choice. And then you can order your companies based on your ranking to help you prioritize your networking, cover letters, and efforts. And then posting. Probably the most important part of this list is whether or not there's a job posting. So using LinkedIn Handshake or other websites like Indeed, you can see if your target companies currently have a job posting up, and this can help you gauge whether or not they're hiring. See when a job was posted and how long it's available. For example, if a job posting was very recently posted, that tends to be a good sign. But if a job posting was posted maybe 3 months ago, sometimes they might have already filled the role. Um, so kind of having a gauge on the timeline of the posting is super important because it can help you be early. It's always best to be early, but you don't want to be so early that you're not putting your best foot forward. So you want to be able to kind of be early, but also be able to put a good application forward. So keeping an eye on the time that a job was posted can be important. And then when you put it all together, this is kind of what it looks like. So if any of you guys want to take a picture of this, or if you want this presentation, I can send it to you later. But this is kind of a go-to way for applying to jobs, not only in finance, but in consulting as well. Especially when sometimes people will apply for a lot of roles. This is a good way to keep it all organized and a good way to stay efficient, especially when you start networking. So, speaking of networking, arguably one of the most important parts of, you know, getting into the finance industry, no matter where you find your fit, one thing that's going to be consistent across this industry is the importance of networking. Not only can it help you uncover new interests and help you learn, but it's also essential for helping you land your dream role. And as I'm sure we all know, networking is simply the exchange of information and ideas among people with a common profession or interest, usually in an informal social setting. So, informational interviews, also known as networking, essentially, outside of local networking events that happen at USC, you might want to take it upon yourself to engage in your own networking or informational interviews with employers, recruiters, or maybe someone you met at an event that you want to follow up with. These informational interviews are a great way to network and can hopefully lead to referrals and deeper knowledge about the finance industry. So I'm going to go over kind of like a way to go about networking. And it's based off of Steve Dalton's 2 Hour Job Search, which is a book that kind of helps guide people towards landing a job or an internship. So if you're interested in reading that, I'm pretty sure you can buy it on Amazon. USC libraries might also have it, but just for context, the next step of directions that I'm going to go over are directly from that source. And it's a great source for anyone who's looking to kind of optimize their job search. So Steve Dolan kind of breaks it down into three different steps, which is prioritize, contact, and recruit. So you want to return to the companies that you identified when you were making your lamp list and prioritize the ones with alumni and job postings. But you want to start with a batch that's low in motivation and move upwards as you refine your email and outreach strategy. So, when you're first starting networking, it can be really overwhelming, and sometimes you're not exactly sure what to talk about with the person. You might be a little nervous. I know I still get nervous when I talk to people, at networking events. So, for your first time, you definitely don't want to start with your fives. You maybe want to start with some ones or twos just so that way you can warm up and get comfortable doing this. So once you've kind of decided on a couple companies that you want to start with, you're going to identify 2 people who you want to talk to. You can use LinkedIn, professional groups, panels, etc. Maybe you met this person at an event. Um, Regardless of how you choose your people, you just want to make sure you're selecting people that are doing the job you want to do or are relevant in regards to your interests. And if they're alumni, that's also great, or are 1 to 2 levels above where you would start. So all these criteria aren't always going to be possible, but most importantly, it's kind of a good goal to try to get 2 or 3 of these criteria when you're looking for people to connect with. So maybe someone works the job you're doing and they're an alumni, but they're much older. That's okay. It's not always going to be possible to hit all of these criteria. You just really want to try to prioritize the ones that are most important to you, especially if you're looking to learn. You want to work on networking with people who are doing the job that you're interested in, which might mean that you are talking to different people in different roles. That's okay because you're interested in learning. Um, Maybe if you're looking to get a referral, you might want to connect with alumni or someone who's relevant in the department. So it kind of depends on your intention and what you're doing, but these are just some criteria to consider. And then the hard part, actually reaching out to these people, Steve Dalton suggests these following ways. You can do LinkedIn Messenger if you're already connected with them. You can do Google stalking, which is also called fan mail. Sometimes you can find someone's work email using a Google search. This can be a little bit more tricky, but sometimes the companies, these firms will actually have people's contact information, especially for asset management or financial advisors. Um, so sometimes you can do it that way. And then you can also send people LinkedIn invites with a message if you're not connected yet. I've been able to connect with a few people this way. It doesn't always work because people don't always check their LinkedIn, especially once they're higher up in their careers the way that we students are. But it's always worth it to give it a shot, and eventually someone will respond to you. And then also secondary connections if someone you know knows them. So, say for example, you have a friend of a friend who does something that you want to do. Maybe your roommate, their older sibling, does something you want to do. You can always, use those warm connections that way to learn more about these different roles. And then how do you actually connect with these people? So Dalton tells you not to sell yourself because an informational interview is not a sales pitch. It's an opportunity for you to learn and build a genuine connection with someone in this industry. And in finance, a lot of people are looking to get referrals. So the more inquisitive, the more curious and genuine you are, that's definitely going to be brownie points for you. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Honesty is the best policy, and people love to talk about themselves. So people love to tell younger students about their careers. All the people I know who are in their first or second years of their jobs are super excited when young students ask for coffee chats because they remember when they were in that situation and they want to help out the people around them. So here is kind of a little 6-point email format that you can use. Definitely take a photo of this, or you can reach out to me afterwards if you want me to send you the presentation again. But I think this is a um, it's a great way to reach out to people. It's short, it's quick, it's efficient. So you can see here kind of what this email looks like. Obviously, this person is connecting with someone who is an alumni of their school, and they're specifically asking to chat about their role at a specific company. She says, I'm trying to learn more about product management in the North Carolina tech space, so your insights would be greatly appreciated. Super quick, super efficient, also respectful to the person and kind of recognizing the fact that, hey, we both went to the same school. So kind of helping build that connection. And then here's some 6-point email rules to keep in mind. And then you can use the same format and kind of change it and edit it depending on the person that you're talking to and depending on what exactly you're asking them about. And then here's a calendar from Steve Dalton's 2-Hour Job Search that kind of tells you when to reach out because it can be frustrating and difficult when people don't respond, but it's important to remember that it's not usually personal. Sometimes if you're sending to someone's email, something might go into their spam if it's not also from the company email, so they might not see it. People might not be active on LinkedIn, or people might have tons of LinkedIn messages from young students. So it definitely is going to take a few tries before someone does get back to you, but I promise you, with a lamp list of a bunch of target companies, they definitely will. So you can take a photo of this calendar. It's a great way to kind of keep yourself accountable. And then at the bottom, it says, think of this as baking, not cooking. And then once again, here's kind of just some reminders. Don't sell yourself. Be likable, ask questions, and remember that you're kind of there to learn and not to be too kind of ambitious about getting a referral right away. So now I'm going to do a quick overview on the finance resume. We're wrapping up soon, so I won't do this for too long. Um, I will give you guys a little bit of a break just now to kind of regroup, think about any questions you might have, and we will continue in 2 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna start getting into the finance resume. Hopefully that gave you guys a little bit to kind of regroup. I know this is a lot of information, but trust me, this presentation will be available to you afterwards. So don't worry again about getting everything down. So the finance resume is very unique because there is kind of a specific format that is expected and that is supposed to be used in the industry. As you can see, I have an example right here that is from Handshake. And this template is available on Handshake and can be exported to Word for edit. But as you can see, it's very clean and it's very simple. So that's kind of the standard in this industry. I know some creative industries might be a little bit different. And I know that we all want our personalities to shine through our resume, but it's definitely best to use this format for jobs in finance and even in consulting as well. Here's another example that is off of Handshake, and this is personally the one that I use for my resume. I like the lines. I like how it breaks it up nicely. Um, so that's kind of what your resume should look like from an organizational standpoint. Here's an example kind of side by side of an acceptable resume in this industry versus something that might not be taken super seriously. It's advised generally to not have pictures or too many colors and just to keep it clean and simple, like the one on the left. Once again, here's another example using kind of your white space, having proper spacing, and making sure that everything is divided nice and evenly. So those templates are available on Handshake for you guys to download. I would suggest using one of those templates and not kind of just opening Word and making one. Like here on the right, you can kind of see how this person is not optimizing their space, whereas the person on the left clearly used a template and they were able to get a lot more use out of their page. Also in finance, some other resume tips. One page is kind of the standard. Obviously, you want to check for grammar and spelling errors, removing photos, having your name at the top with contact information. Sometimes recruiters might call you. That's happened to me a few times. You want to omit your summary and objective for this industry. Include your school, major, minor, GPA if it's over 3.0. And then you may omit high school after your sophomore year of college. That happened to me. I kind of ran out of space, including my high school activities. So I got rid of them. But when I was my freshman and sophomore, I still hadn't built up my resume quite as much as I wanted to as a USC student. So I kept some stuff from high school on there. You're going to want to break down your experiences into a few bullet points, organize it chronologically. And then if you're running out of room, you can omit roles that don't relate to your professional goals. So for example, I used to be a server when I was in high school, but I just recently got rid of that because I had more internship experience to add. But even when I didn't have the internship experience, the server role was a great thing to have on my resume, and a lot of people asked me about it. And then you want to make your bullet points action-oriented and impactful because the average resume review time is only 7 seconds. So here's kind of like what that looks like. Quantifying your experience in this industry is super important. Resumes with quantified bullet points are 40% more likely to catch a recruiter's attention. So what I like to do in order to do this is to brainstorm everything I did in that role, writing things down, making notes, and then pick out the projects and responsibilities that I knew I wanted to include. I search for trends within my skills, and then I pick an action verb based on those trends to drive the discussion of my experiences. And then I always make sure to include an outcome at the end. And you can see here is an example. This one has to do with molecular biology, but you can see how that person included an accomplishment. And then here's just kind of a simple recipe to helping to create your resume bullet points. So how do you show accomplishments if you don't know numbers? I know for a lot of us who are super young, we don't necessarily know numbers. Or for me, being in an internship for only 3 months, you didn't necessarily know the impact of your projects. So you don't want to make up numbers, but you can still emphasize outcomes without including a number. And here below, you can take a photo. I have 2 different examples of one where I did know the outcome at the bottom and a situation where I didn't know the outcome. And I just had to kind of guess and focus more on the relevant tasks rather than the outcome. So then the end result of kind of applying different resume tips should look something like this. The bottom where it says after. You want to transform your long, wordy paragraphs into short and impactful sentences that are easy for recruiters to read and understand, using the bullet point method while focusing on impact when applicable to help the recruiter see your skills easily. Remember, you guys are all still students, so don't put too much pressure on yourself in regards to this. It's okay if you don't have numerical impacts to showcase from your past experiences. Recruiters know this. They know that you're still in college, but use numbers when it makes sense. And I bet if you think hard enough, you can definitely realize the impacts that you have had at some of your past jobs and experiences. And then another thing in finance that is very important on the resume is tailoring your resume to the job description. A lot of jobs in finance can be very focused, but some of them can also be very, very broad. So what you can do is you can look for similarities between your resume and the job you're applying for, like this example below. You don't want to make things up, but what you can do is see how your bullet points relate to the job posting, and you can rephrase your job posting, or you can rephrase your resume bullet in a way that reflects what's on the job posting to show that you have experience in what they're looking for. Oh, I have a little glitch here, but this is an example, but we're going to skip past it because that did not, oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, guys. My presentation did not format properly when I downloaded it to PDF. But essentially, this was just an example. And what I'm going to go over finally before we conclude our session is the next steps about what you guys can do today. So if you are not a business or accounting major, but you think that you're interested in it, what you can do is I would definitely suggest taking maybe a GEF, which is quantitative reasoning in a class that relates to finance. There's econ, there's, I think, business statistics, and there's finance classes available to take as this GE. So you can see if you like it and you can see if you had an interest in it. Going from there, you can potentially add a minor or a major. For me, after I took econ, I decided that I wanted to pursue a career in the world of business. So I changed from international relations to international relations and global business. So if you're maybe a little bit nervous and you're not exactly sure what comes next, I knew I was in that same situation and I just decided that I was going to take econ for one of my GEs, and I ended up really, really liking it. You can also begin to explore different roles on Handshake and sign up for more informational sessions. Here's some examples of ones that are coming up. Morgan Stanley had one that I was going to include, but it just concluded. And they often have more throughout the year where they kind of have different speakers come in and explain different potential careers. But as you can see, there's lots of different events you can attend. And I also wanted to plug this one, Industry Insights Finance event that the Career Center is putting on, where you can learn more about different people and their different roles. Events like this are super helpful. And then if you're looking to get kind of further guidance, we also have advising sessions. You can have an advising session with me or another student, or you can have an advising session with someone from the Career Center if you need someone to help prepare for an interview or if you need someone to help go over your resume. So I will open the floor up to questions now. I know we only have a few minutes, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if anyone does have questions, just feel free to raise your hand. Okay. Hi guys, I'll be on for the next 5 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, I'll put my email in the chat. You can send me an email as well, and I can send you this presentation. I know there was a lot of information on that, so no pressure at all if you don't have questions right now. But I can send this to you, or if you want to chat one-on-one as well. Hi, Annie. You can ask a question.
Hi, I just had a quick question. Would you like us? I think you did a really great presentation, and there was a lot of information that I enjoyed learning about. And I was wondering if we email you or we give you our Gmail to get access to the slides.
Oh, I will put my email
Okay,
at right now.
thank you.
It's just my last name sorry, I made a little typo at usc.edu. And I will send you the presentation, and I can also send you um, a more comprehensive overview as well. I made a presentation like this for finance, consulting, and accounting if you'd like that as well.
Okay, thanks. And I'll send the message soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much. For everyone else, I'll hang around till 7. But if you guys are good to go, you don't have questions, you can feel free to leave.
Thanks so much, Carly. You did
Yeah,
such an amazing job. It's so much material, but definitely very, very helpful as people are navigating the space. So
thank you. There was a lot of material, so don't be intimidated. I will send you guys the slides if you want. Okay.
congrats, Carly. It's still recording, so I didn't know if you wanted to turn that off or not, but you did awesome.